isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
And welcome to a brand new episode of Christmas Live. Cheech, I was watching that whole thing, bro. What was going on? I'm like, am I going to start this by myself? Like, what's going to happen?
No, I was going to try to wear this, and then I look like the cheeseburger guy from Trailer Park Boys.
Randy.
Not Randy, but the guy in the cheeseburger truck.
Oh,
I was like, this is too tight.
Collins.
Yeah, I was like, it's too tight. But yeah, that first blood, yeah.
Well, everybody, welcome to a brand new episode of Crush This Live, presented but always and fueled by High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, 6B Apparel, Marty Garza and his book, Monster Truck Technology, JB Scale Graphics, and myself, Bradley Shaw with Bradley Shaw Designs. Cheech, how's everything going, buddy? I thought you were supposed to be gone this episode.
I was supposed to be, but something happened and rescheduled. So I'm gonna keep my word, and I'm gonna step down for this episode. I'm gonna watch, and I'm gonna tag out and tag in my good friend. He's also a Trigger King racer, pretty good video game monster truck announcer. Also, he's good friends with the guests that we have this show. I am good friends with the guests also, but
yeah, same.
And he's good with you, but he puts up with you, so we're not really good friends. I mean, it's just a Canada thing. I'm sorry,
but okay, with our guest host, he's also a umpteenth millionth time virtual monster truck.
Okay, quit kissing the butt. Just bring him on, Brad.
Right, everybody,
he's not your friend. Just.
It's our good buddy Josh Dagrose. Josh, how you doing, bud?
I'm great. I'm just listening to this whole thing right now, trying to process it all.
It's okay. Brad's just getting embarrassed about it, but it's okay.
It's the common thing to rip on me because I'm from Canada, okay?
It's either that or watch you fall off a wall, Humpty Dumpty.
Actually, back in the day, it was him slamming a wall.
Oh, yeah.
Virtually, might I add.
Virtually, yeah.
So all those guys want to own a monster truck. On that bombshell, I will Purdue. Good day.
All right, everybody. Josh Dagrose, one of a guy that I've known for quite a long time. How long has it been? Probably close to 10 years that we've known each other.
Close to it.
If people don't know,
at least 9.5 of them.
Well, if people don't know who you are, just kind of give them a rundown of your background in the monster truck business, and yeah.
Well, I was a photographer for allmonster.com for a number of years. Did a few monster profiles with some of the biggest names in the sport, such as Dennis Anderson, Tom Mintz, Bob Chandler, Chris Bergeron back in the day. Helped out with a Lee O'Donnell one as well. Since then, moved on, got into the RC world. Have been dominating the Trigger King RC Monster Truck Series for quite some time now, with AC RC Chassis as a sponsor, as well as J Concepts and JB Scale Graphics a sponsor here, as well as J Concepts as a sponsor here. I almost forgot about that. This year was my first time employed with Monster Trucks. I got to be a competition manager for Monster Jam on the Triple Threat Central Tour, and had the time of my life. Enjoyed it. Well,
without further ado, let's get to our guest. He is, he's most famous for saying on FS1, he's back on all for BKT tires. Everybody knows him for that. I see him in the little window at the bottom. He is one heck of a guy. Does a lot for his community. Does a lot of stuff for nonprofit organizations and everything. Everybody, let's bring in Ryan LaCosse. Oh, wait.
BKT.
How's it going, Ryan?
Good. I hope you don't mind. I brought a guest too, my man, Mr. Bobby Chandler, one of the originators. He just came to say hi, little guest appearance.
I got one of his trucks right here.
Sorry, I just had to flex real quick. Had to show off.
We had another guy over here. His name's Steve Austin.
I don't have anything I could show, so
Steve Austin is not king of the monster trucks. And to add to Josh's resume there, I got to work with him at the Allstate Arena. Technically, we helped produce one of the last Monster Jam events before COVID shut everything down. And it's been really sad to kind of see the state of things. But knowing the people that we worked with, we'll all get together, pull through this, and we'll find a better time where we can all celebrate our favorite love once again.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully very soon.
Yeah.
So, with Crush This, we always like to kind of go back and with the history of our guests. So tell us kind of how you got, started in monster trucks. Were you a fan growing up? Take us through, the history of Ryan LaCosse and how you kind of fell in love with the monster truck business.
I just always loved monster trucks. It was the only way my parents could get me to be good in the grocery stores if they promised to buy me one of the trucks like the So High. It was like the original set of like die-cast trucks back in the day, and it worked. And then I just play for hours and hours in my sandbox, and I'd go to places like the Chicago Amphitheater, the now Allstate Arena, Rosemont Horizon for all of us diehards, where Chicago style originated. And technically, I was at the only monster truck event in Soldier Field in the womb, but I've got pictures from the event too. And so just really a lot of the Midwest stuff up in Wisconsin, where a lot of people thought I was in the Crush This video, but that wasn't me, the kid playing in the dirt. But there, Kankakee Speedway, the very rarely seen but talked about barefoot reunion from back in the day, that Tom Mentz was there and Dustin Brown. And so it's interesting to see some of the pictures from that. And a lot of people were kind of wish we had more footage from back in those days. And I got to be honest, when I turned about 18, I went to college and I was like, oh, girls, parties, all this cool stuff. And yeah, of course, studying and all that. But then when I got like my first apartment with my now wife, and I turned on Speed TV, I'm like, Monster Jam, oh, cool. I used to like monster trucks. And I saw World Finals and my mind was blown. And I'm like, we're going next year. And we went to World Finals, and it was funny. It was a really unfortunate year of things that had happened in the sport. And MySpace was big at the time. And I was messaging a bunch of drivers to try to get into the sport, because I was like, oh my gosh, like I had the itch again. I was ready to dive back in. And my bosses at the radio station got a phone call from, I could guess who it is. I don't really remember, but they thought I was trying to be some shock jock. And I thought at that point, my monster truck career was over before it even began. But then someone who interned under me, she worked for Feld. She left Vegas, the vacation destination. And she's like, I'm going on vacation somewhere else. I'm like, but Vegas is the vacation destination for Monster Jam. And she told me she worked there, and I'm like, what? And before I knew it, Scott Douglas was calling me, and before I knew it, it was an entire whirlwind of awesomeness, and the people I got to meet, the food you get to eat, the friendships you make on the road with the people you tour with, and what's really struck me hardest are some of the friendships that you'll never get to like say hi or goodbye one more time, like our buddy Brett out in Syracuse who passed recently. You really look forward to seeing those people every time you go back, because you're away from your family, and there are times when you're just tired and you'd rather be home than anywhere else, but they're the ones that really make you feel home no matter where you are. So I just want to show some love to Brett and his family, and I know that he's in a better place, and his dad shared with me that he was watching Monster Jam on YouTube before he passed in his sleep. So, those are the impacts we make, and those really are truly the things that I'll cherish forever.
Yep, same here as well with me. I never thought, just being on the tour, on the road for one first quarter, how many friends and how many lifelong friends you're going to make in 3 months.
Yep.
It was unreal.
And all the friendships and families you get grandfathered into that have already been established by other hosts or drivers or tech staff or AV staff and behind the scenes. It's really just, no matter how hard life can be at times, it's those relationships that make that. And I know that everybody who's in this boat, what everybody really misses right now are those connections, those friendships, and the family that you build outside of your family from home. Yeah.
100%.
And that's the biggest thing, like even for myself, I don't get the chance to go to a lot of Monster Jam shows. I go to a lot of the independent shows, but there's friendships and families that I'm like, anytime I see them, like, hey, how's it going? It's the same thing, and we're all missing that, and you growing up in the Chicago area, going to the Rosemont Horizon and stuff like that. What are like some of the memories you? Oh, I see your comment there, Cheech. Ha ha, you're funny. You're funny, Cheech. So like some of the memories you have from going to those shows, because a lot of those shows are legendary things. That's, I believe, where if I'm correct, the famous scene of Digger going into the wall.
That's where the world finals technically was for, and it's Bigfoot, Gravedigger, Taurus, Barefoot, Carolina Crusher, Cheech with his first blood, Evil Force would be there, and Excalibur, Charlie Pocket. I've got some great pictures of him. It's amazing what the trucks can do now. Remember how mind blown we were when a truck got both front wheels, straight up in the air like Goliath would at some of those pulling shows. Or even like when it was just one truck at a time doing the Chicago style timed, it would go off track and go in the mud a little bit. That would, those were the more interesting times. I mean, there was the time, the race with Barefoot and Taurus where the Christmas tree flew across the track. I don't want to get too much into detail of what happened. Y'all can YouTube it if you really want to, but there have been some wild moments, and until you look back at how much safety has progressed when you see the guys in their mud trucks just sitting right there on the floor back then. The truck sure didn't go as fast, but it's nice to see that this industry has recognized the progress that needed to be made over the years to make sure that we can put on the safest show. And it can be dangerous if you're not careful,
Exactly. And monster trucks are actually one of the only sports that recognizes that and has kept recognizing it over the years. In other major sports, it's unfortunately taken a horrible accident to bring on safety innovations. And monster trucks, not so much.
So, what were some of the drivers and, teams that you watched growing up? You mentioned, the Tauruses and stuff like that. What, was young Ryan LaCosse, what was his favorite teams, trucks, drivers, growing up?
Oh, it was Bigfoot and Gravedigger for sure.
Smart guy.
And if Gravedigger didn't win, you always had a pretty good chance that Bigfoot would probably win too. And my dad was always smart enough to get me the ILC too, so I could just jump up and run all over the place. But some of the other trucks I used to like, Awesome Kong. That was one of the more unique trucks that started to kind of reshape the development of the sport. From the Bigfoot, Wildfoot, Power Wheels, that whole series, the Firestone one. I mean, that was so much fun to watch. I think one of the more unique years that I kind of look back and I'm like, SMH. Was the Monster Wars.
Okay.
I always say this about Monster Wars. The cartoon gimmicks that they had were awful in a truck, but the racing.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you guys this. We had David Morris on 2 days ago, and he was talking about that era specifically. He said those characters would be in the stadium, like going around, walking around the stadium. And then it was, I think it was in Tampa, he was mentioning, and they were doing an event, and all the actors they were all dressed up coming out of an airplane, and everybody's landing. David's like, "Where's my guy?" He sees him like go almost like right into a fence. it was me and Dan just started laughing our asses off at that moment. And like you mentioned, the Penda series, which is one of my favorites of all time. I love the Penda series. The infamous 93 wheelie run in Wildfoot.
That's what and then Barefoot and Rampage coming along. I mean, that's really when, that's when the sports started to really take off. Yeah.
And you look at how the sponsorships and stuff like was back in the day. You had Fred Shaper the Dodge, Bigfoot the Ford, and then you had there wasn't really a big Chevy sponsor.
Well, there was
truck.
USA One, but at that point it had kind of faded away, unfortunately.
And I think that series was such a good thing for monster trucks at the time because it was pure racing, no BS. And then, like you said, Monster Wars, that was just, I look back at it now, I'm just like, what were they thinking?
Everyone has their like awkward teen stage,
And that was definitely, that was Acme. Right there. That was definitely Acme and puberty mixing all in together.
So talk about, the, trends coming into the sport. You working at a radio station and you start, one of your coworkers was working for Feld, and then you started getting calls from, Scott Douglas, who's doing a Twitch stream tonight with Dennis Anderson.
Yes, that's either right now or coming up. So we need
to wrap this up. No, I'm kidding.
We're the pre-show or no one's watching this.
But so talk about, how, you got into Monster Jam, working with, such a legendary name as Scott Douglas and some of the other announcers of the time, Greg Whitaker and Ken Nowitzki, and talk about all that kind of happening.
Well, I will say that.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Brad, you hung up on him.
No, I didn't.
There I am. It looked like we were dancing.
I don't know what happened there. Cheech controlling other parts of it too, so.
I was gonna say, I'll start out with and this is, I wholeheartedly believe this: if you work hard and you're nice to people, good things will happen to you. But you also have to believe in yourself, because if you don't, you're not going to find, you have friends that will support you, but they have their own, support system. They have to take care of themselves too. So if you can really, take care of those three things, you'll be off to a pretty good start. But I was nervous, man. You can watch my first show from Nashville where they just go, here you go. And it's funny because it took 2 minutes for the drivers to come out. And Medusa said they were back there and she thought she was going to pass out. It was just a rough start to the first show of a season. And it was my first show. And this is like 50,000 plus views on this video too. And it's a good 50 minutes of just, it's rough. It's very choppy. And it was before they really put guidelines together to help newer hosts kind of understand the dynamics of what a motorsport show can be.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just messaging Cheech back. He messaged.
No, it's good. It's good. But no, working with Scott Douglas has been amazing.
Speaking of Cheech, he has a question for you, Ryan. He wants to know how your RC track is doing. I kind of want to know this as well because you always ask me to come up.
Yeah. I was working on it last weekend, and a bee came out of one of the big ramps and stung me right in the face.
Oh,
right here. And then it was nasty. There's a whole hive in there. So I'm trying to keep the ecological system well, and I don't want to kill all the bees. So I'm going to let them go when it gets a little colder, hopefully.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes. But back working with Scott Douglas was amazing. He was every bit gracious as a person would be, who trains somebody that, follows in his footsteps. And that's not just on my behalf. That's on everyone that he's worked with in the hosting role too. Greg Whitaker has, everyone has their own kind of different element of how they help you kind of focus being better. And then, you come into this room, my first host seminar they had with all the hosts, and, I'm just a nobody make new guy. And I just sat in the back and listened to the Jody Donnellys and all these guys I tried to pick their ideas and put it into work, but that took a while to develop. Those first 2 weekends of hosting shows, I really thought, I was like, I'm not cut out for this. I can't do this. This is the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I was, and I'm not only the competition manager, but at the same time, I'm sitting here. God, I got to keep all there.
Yeah, there are times where you could just go, man, I can't do it, but you have to. And live event is crazy.
I remember working, club help at one of my first shows here where I live in Grand Prairie, and it was like nerve wracking. I'm like, what like what happens if a truck flips over? I'm not sure exactly what to do and all this stuff. And, I remember, the infamous moment that, me falling over a hockey dasher, I get asked, I get asked, hometown show, for Elliot with Throwdown, and he's like, "Hey, it's your hometown. I know you're trying to chase the dream." And it was Trent Montgomery in Bounty Hunter and Matt Brokaw and Knucklehead, and I'm bringing them up, right. And before this, I'm a big dude, and they're like, "We want to make sure you can get over the hockey dasher." I'm like, "Okay." I do a couple of practice, attempts, and I'm okay with it. And Matt Looker's with me, one of the best tech officials. Matt's an awesome guy.
He's one of the nicest guys. I'm sure he didn't let you hear the end of it.
Oh no! I heard the rest of it all weekend. So I bring up both trucks, stage. I point to where the Elliot's throwing the green flag, and I run like hell. And my inside knee catches, and I just tumble over. And like I'm like. Really? Am I cut out for this? Like, as soon as that happened, I'm like, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life?
To bring this up, Ryan, you've seen Jeff Hardy do a swanton in pro wrestling where he jumps.
Yeah.
He was nowhere near that graceful.
I mean, I've seen someone do a scorpion in MetLife Stadium. Too tall. So he scorpioned. Adam from the Dirt Crew. He biffed in Detroit, and you're talking and you see that. That is the hardest thing, to not laugh. But you can even hear yourself smiling. So you got to think everyone knows that that's going on. And shout out to Elliot. Like, I will say, like, some of the best racing I've seen in the last, I think it's about 5 years now, was in the fields of Illinois with Throwdown. Those guys were just going at it, and that was just unbelievable. And has he got his own truck now?
Yeah, he's been building one. It's the old Little Tiger truck.
Great. Good for him.
It's called Sinistar. So that's going to be hopefully debuting this year. So, you start doing events and hosting, and, talk about the transition into the whole FS1 thing. That's where a lot of people started, recognizing you, coming into that. And, the infamous thing back on all 4 BKT tires, which everybody still to this day knows you for that.
Yeah, you're always the BKT tire guy.
Hey, I'll take it to the grave. From college, there's still people that call me the Subway guy a little bit, and I still take pride in that. I make good sandwiches. But it's funny. Whenever Scott Douglas called, I'd be like, "Scott, what did I do now?" And he'd follow it up. It would start off with something that I did, like twerking on Gravedigger and posting it on social media. It happens sometimes, And so he's like, "Hey, you shouldn't do that." Also, "Hey, do you want to be on TV?" I was like, yeah, of course. So working with him and the FS1 team, kind of getting a taste of that. And, watching him work with Bob Dillner, I think was great. If they had just been like, "Ryan, jump right in," I'd have been a deer in headlights. So I think within that time too, I started to pay attention to more just hosts in general, from late night hosts to, I think Ryan Seacrest is one of the best hosts in the world. Ryan Seacrest is one of the richest people on the planet. But when you see him on TV, he's always going, "Hey, so tell me about you," all the time. And it's never about Ryan Seacrest for the most part. And I think that's what makes a good host great, is that they understand that they can be a part of the story, but to not make themselves the focus. Because no one, it's, unless your name is, Jimmy Fallon or something like that, people don't care who Ryan LaCosse is. They want to see Gravedigger do a backflip and then blow off all 4 tires and have Adam or Ryan, whoever it is, get out so they can cheer. That's what they came for. So in this sport, it was just, understanding that element and making sure that, make sure the stars shine, and then you become kind of a part of that galaxy. And then when I got to host the World Finals with Scott Douglas on FS1 the year that Leo O'Donnell did the front flip, I mean, it was one of the most intimidating but just exciting experiences that I got to have. That to me, like, the year before I was even a part of the TV show, all I wanted to do was co-host the awards banquet with him. I never thought that I would be hosting the TV show and following in the footsteps of a guy I've been watching since I've been in diapers,
Well,
I hear you there. I do have one question for you, because you kind of came along in the era where there was usually maybe 1 or 2 stadium hosts at most. You and I both know Rosemont this year, we had 3 hosts. What's your favorite format? Would you rather have one host and yourself, or would you rather have other people you can bounce stuff off of as well?
Having a great team is the best, I think. People tune out. They do. They'll tune you out after a while, especially when your voice starts going, especially when you've been yelling, if, you're not really keeping, monitoring what you're doing the whole time. But having different voices, I think, is a benefit to an overall show. And it helps if they, are really in tune with the sport and they don't have to follow bullet points all the time. Like they can use them at first and get comfortable and then just understand how they fit in the whole story of the night.
And with, being on TV and stuff like that, I watched a lot of motorsports myself, and I've watched, tons of monster truck stuff throughout the years. You had guys like Gary Lee, Army Armstrong in the Penda days, Ralph Shaheen and Mike Galloway in the USA Motorsports days. Are there any, commentators and stuff like that you look back on that you kind of, watched and, tried to learn from them as well, kind of going into that?
I don't know if, I liked Brett Kepner's flair. He was always a favorite of mine. I think he's the one that's always got his foot up on the car when Goliath is popping that huge wheelie and he's like, yeah, about to bust through his leather pants. Scott was always great to watch. As I got into like college and started going back to shows, Jody Donnelly hosted a lot out here. It was always fun to watch him, or Greg Whitaker. I'm pretty sure I watched one of his first shows out here in Peoria when I was going to college at ISU. But Scott, Army Armstrong, if they've had a TV show, I might not remember everybody's names, but when we would always Tough Tracks and Chill Friday nights before shows on the road, you start to hear some of those old videos and the voices and some of the comments some of those guys used to make was awesome. I wish I could have said some of those things on TV and not gotten in trouble.
One guy that, especially at Monster Wars, one guy that, was always an awesome commentator was Joe Lowe.
Yes,
and he will be, very missed. And, I feel like, when he was able to do some of the stuff, I think it was one of the world finals on speed with Scott Douglas. That was awesome to hear him, be able to do that again. And
call the biggest show of the year.
Yeah. Well, and when you talk to Scott about their relationship growing up, when this sport was starting to kind of manifest, it's nice to know that they kept a good relationship, even though, it's business and everybody wants the money and the opportunity. So to be able to have a long-standing relationship like that sometimes entertainment's a cutthroat industry. It just is. And, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a terribly cutthroat industry in Monster Jam, but the deeper you get into music or television or movies, it really starts to become, dog eat dog out there. Mm-hmm. So there's always been a good camaraderie between hosts and someone who I have to give major mega props to. And I'm going to say this, and I've always said this. This is my motto. This is my shingles and roofs. Ryan LaCosse would not be anything as a Monster Jam host had it not been for Leslie Mears, who is one of the most phenomenal announcers in all of motorsports, in my opinion, one of the most knowledgeable motorsports in motorsports, and more knowledgeable than I think half of the guys that come to our shows thinking they're cool because they got a Cummins diesel. Well, hey, what do you really know about that? And she'll put you to shame. She didn't have to play nice when Ryan LaCosse came into the picture, and no one ever really did. But she was great, and we call her mommy because she really was a mother for the tour and took care of us that first FS1 tour with myself and then Taylor Mock, who was new too.
Got a couple shout outs here from a couple people. Sky Hartley.
Yeah.
Says, wow, Ryan didn't recognize you.
Oh, Sky. See, oh man, we had some good times in Anaheim, California. I love Anaheim, one of my favorite places to do a show. God, Sky, I miss you.
Got another one from Phil
Tristan.
Tristan.
Yes, one of the originals. I got to come out to Quad Cities and check out that truck.
He actually says, Ryan, I remember when we talked about your goal to be involved with the monster trucks at my daughter's wedding. Josh and Sarah, glad you succeeded.
Yes. I remember that too. My wife reminds me about how I ditched her for about an hour to talk about monster trucks.
So
there's a reason I have a couple of ex-girlfriends. I might have.
hey, my girlfriend's all supportive of my goal still. So it's like, yes, I got the right one.
Yeah.
Give it about a year.
So let's get away from the monster truck side a little bit, and let's talk about the radio stuff.
Yeah.
You've been involved in radio for a long time, and that's one avenue that I wanted to go into at one point in my life. A lot of people were like, "Hey, you'd probably have a good voice for radio," and blah blah blah. Answering phones all the time. So talk about that kind of journey and that side, and did that help you kind of in the monster truck side too? Being an announcer as well.
Yes and no. And I'll tell people that if you really want to get comfortable public speaking, go to an open mic night and do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. You might bomb, probably. It's going to happen. You might do really well and you'll feel really good about yourself, but you'll really start to develop that understanding of who you are with a microphone in your hand and what you can and can't say. I think that's something that everyone should try who's ever kind of wanted to get into hosting. But with radio, I started after college, so about 2006, and then the recession hit. When I finally got my first kind of full-time job, I was just doing middays on a top 40 station, and I was the promotions director. And so I was watching everyone around me getting fired. This company's going under. People are leaving for opportunities because everything was just going to poo. And so I got a real nice crash course in radio, from programming to doing everything, and just being everywhere and understanding more of the fundamentals of how a radio station runs. So if you have a program where you can edit audio at home and you do that already, you're halfway to radio. A lot of that is editing audio for the commercials and the sweeps in between songs. The other half right now is blogging. On the website to, whatever's happening in your city or your favorite bands or whatever's relevant to that radio station. And talking is only a part of it. And I hate to say this, but I see syndication becoming more of a thing with actual terrestrial radio over time. I hope that's not the case. I hope things can stay live and local, but until everything bounces back now with this, I can't really imagine that things are going to really be getting better for my radio friends. And so in radio, you learn to say the same thing differently a lot. And so you kind of do that in Monster Jam too. You keep trying to get those messages out there, or in whatever, whichever faction you're with at the time. We're in keeping people informed. That's the goal of radio. You're there to inform the public. So when you have that microphone, inform the hosts and pretend, even though it's tough, there's smart people who really love the deep knowledge of this, but you have to pretend that everybody's there for their first time. So that way everyone understands what's happened. And those people that are there for the first time, they'll go, I had a good time. I understand everything. I want to come back again.
Exactly. And that's what you've got to do. You can't automatically assume everybody in that stadium or even in radio broadcasting knows exactly what you're talking about.
Correct.
You can't assume that.
Correct. And even when it comes to like the technical parts of trucks, I really leaned on Leslie Mears for a lot of that. She knew all of that. I didn't necessarily study it, but now that I'm working on RC trucks, I understand a lot more of the technical terms and how the pieces all work together. And so I'm like, oh, I get it.
Have you fixed the Canuter and rod yet?
Don't. Ask Scott Jordan about the phalange. He held up in a stadium. Yeah, somebody told him it was a phalange, and he was holding this piece up in Florida like they're fixing the phalange, and so.
I bet he got ripped for that one.
No, he realized what was going on afterwards. Someone almost pulled a joke on him to say that the trucks had hydrogen in their tires, and no, they had to put hydrogen in the tires in like a higher up altitude or something like that, and he almost bought it, but they're like, no. So.
I may have told my sister helium was in the tires one time, and she believed it. So
people put brake fluid on their lights because they saw it on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
So one thing you're also involved in, which is kind of in the background there, you kind of see a little bit, is Best Buddies.
Yeah,
that's something you're very involved in. So talk about that and what Best Buddies is.
So I'm technically part-time now with radio. And I haven't actually been on the air since March. But in November last year, I took a full-time position as the area director for Best Buddies in Central Illinois. And so along my journey, I was doing some volunteering at schools here in Peoria. kids with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And when you're on the road, those are some of the more special people you meet, in that they have no shame. They come up to you and they introduce themselves to you, and you become their friend. You might not have been expecting it, or again, like it's a grandfathered friendship from other hosts who have known this person. And when you really start to develop those relationships and get to know people on a deeper level, and meet their parents or their family, and you get to see the impact that you make. That's really what kind of led me to Best Buddies, in that I had been fundraising for them over the last couple of years, and this area director position popped up, and I couldn't resist. So now I fundraise, and I help support my team here in Central Illinois, and we help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities thrive in their communities based on a simple message of inclusion. I think it's crazy. I get paid to remind people, just, treating people just like you want to be treated is kind of the message here. And so we do peer-to-peer friendships for people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities. So you guys can both be teamed up with a best buddy, someone who has similar interests as you. So that way there's already kind of like a common foundation for a friendship. And then you would just do things that you do with any other friends, go for a walk, play with your RC trucks, go get coffee, maybe go to lunch or something like that. And then we do integrated and competitive employment to find people positions that they really want. And that's, I'm looking to make people a host or hostess. When you walk into a restaurant, they're crunching numbers in the IT department. I'm working for a gentleman out here, getting him with U.S. State Representative Dan Brady. There's some details we're still finalizing, but we're getting him a paid internship, and that's really exciting to me. And we also help them write speeches to be leaders in their community, to advocate for themselves, to inspire, and maybe one day be the first person on the autism spectrum to host a Monster Jam or drive Max D. And really, I think that I don't want to dive too deep into this for your guys' sake, probably, but
just saying, I'm on the autism spectrum myself, so that's big for me. I have Asperger's, so you talking about this stuff, that's something that speaks big to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, blind, deaf. There is no disability that we don't try to help someone better their lives or their situations. And that goes with all intersections too. I know someone who is one of the first people to be, employed as a transgender person with Monster Jam. I love Angela, and I can't wait to see her and how she's doing well right now. It's funny because one night I got to tell my wife I took home a drunk chick to the hotel, and she wasn't too happy when I told her that, but I thought it was funny. I think that as a motorsport industry too, let's face it, if you look through the yearbooks, it's a lot of guys who look like us, right? So what can our motorsport do to try to develop what a diverse industry can truly look like? And I really want to push for groups who want to help people find seat time, find education, find ways to get into underserved communities to help give them that opportunity. I've talked with a few people, and I can understand the sentiment of feeling like you might be getting pushed out. But we all have to work hard for where we get. You have to work hard to get to where you want in life, and no one's going to take that away from you. But we have to remember that there are people who have never had the opportunity to sit behind the wheel of a go-kart, let alone maybe go to one of these events. And so that road to driving or announcing or being a tech or being AV is a lot easier for someone whose name is Ryan LaCosse, who is kind of like of my intersection. And I don't want people in this industry to be scared of that either. I think embracing that is the best thing that we can do. And I think that rock and roll is a great example. I love rock and roll. I don't think it's dead, but I don't think it's going anywhere because it's a bunch of white people. And there need to be different messages that go along with that. And so again, I'm not trying to say that anybody's doing anything wrong or, white devil or anything like that. It's just, we have to be open and honest and try to come up with ways to really make this as inclusive and as family friendly truly as we really want it to be, because we know we can. And I think that starts with ending the R word.
Yeah.
I've heard that every once in a while, and it's usually people I'm close to. So I'll kind of ask them not to use that again. And obviously there are other words that I would never use. And so I've really learned to become an ally and an advocate through all of this. And I hope that when we're all together again, you know, everyone can feel comfortable at our events, can enjoy themselves, can scream as loud as they want, and can see themselves being somewhere in that kind of story that we tell every weekend.
You know, as somebody, you know, like myself, who's on the autism spectrum that has ADHD as well, you know, that's one big thing that I've always struggled with is, especially, you know, in the motorsports, you know, being accepted. You know, sometimes, you know, if I'm at a show and I'm working it, sometimes I might be, you know, get a little distracted when I, you know, the first time I met Jimmy Cretin, I was like, holy crap, this is Jimmy Cretin. I've watched this.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a goal of mine to, you know, be, you know, show that, you know, people that have, you know, developmental disabilities, you know, autism, ADHD can still succeed in the sport. You know, like, I don't know if there's ever been any driver or anything that's, you know, been open about, you know, their mental health and stuff like that. And, you know, who knows, eventually somebody will, you know.
This is definitely the place too, though, for people to scream as loud as they want, no matter, you know, and the only issue is, you know, people with super sensory issues, they can't attend some of these events. And on the ADHD nod, I was diagnosed at 5, and just read a new article that says that we've really just kind of painted what ADHD truly is, and knowing that there are a lot of people struggling to figure out their place in this world too. I mean, there's a lot of people kind of in that boat, and I hope that, you know, I don't necessarily want to say I want to be an inspiration, but like I've tried to channel that energy into something more of a positive and something that I think is more of an outgoing than something that hinders me.
You're helping people live their dreams. You're helping them create and mold what they're going to be for the rest of their lives through this Best Buddies program.
Well, and yes, man, and you can't beat that. You can't at all. It's funny. I used to celebrate, you know, the front flips and things like that, and now I celebrate when I get a $5,000 grant to continue programming, or like this gentleman, we're getting this paid internship with a representative, and really starting to build those networks and communities, and giving people just an opportunity to have, you know, their shot, to feel accepted. And you know, monster trucks are kind of that place where some of us goofballs kind of all ended up, and it's just the way it worked. And you know, you get to see the younger folks that are kind of like that too. And I love it. And to know that this sport is going to continue to always have younger fans who are going to find their way in life too. It's fun, and being able to meet all of these amazing people and working with different people constantly, and all of the hard work that everybody is putting into just trying to make this the best has been something that's been phenomenal to watch, especially these last 7 years for me.
Well, let's add Cheech in here.
No.
I want to see. Let's see if Cheech has any questions here. Don't want to let Cheech feel left out.
I was trying to get Cheech's team to bring the ride truck to my friendship walk in April in Bloomington Normal, but you know, COVID shut that down. But next year, Cheech, put me on the books. April 24th.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I just yeah, and then the Autumn Leaf Festival, not the Autumn Leaf, the Pumpkin Festival. That's probably the coolest moment I ever have, is driving a monster truck through Ryan's town.
Are you coming back? Is that Pumpkin Fest happening? No? Okay.
It's
I
canceled.
I should know that.
Yeah, but still, that's pretty cool. It's like, oh, we're almost at the dealership, and my truck's running about 240. So
speaking of TV, though, like let's get Cheech's thoughts on his TV cameos. That's always my favorite part too, is seeing everybody like running along or picking their butt or something like that.
I don't know why I do half the time.
I was just watching, which I think Monster Jam just put an event on. It was from Tampa earlier this year, and they're talking to Neil Elliott, and you see somebody in the background. I don't know who it was, but you see them like trying to tuck in their official shirt, like digging into their ass. And just like, come on, you can't realize that you're on camera right now.
Man, I remember the television crew when we did the inside Monster Jam, and I was wearing this apron, and I was done packing. And the LaCosse oil grease that we get at the shop is red. So I'm packing the bearings, and I have this Carhartt apron on, and it just looks like I've been cutting meat all day long, like it's like all splattered all over me. But I'm just trying to fix this axle, and this camera guy kept on calling me the Butcher.
So that's your pro wrestling name now.
Yeah.
So every single time the camera came on, he
Turn
had
that back on.
like every single time I just had to keep on putting on. I just kept on working until it was weared out. But the guy comes over with Kelly Hansen.
Yep.
And they're like, "Oh, Butcher, we got to interview." And this was the same show that Tom Mentz went through Lucas Oil, that we blew the motor and the housing and everything like that. He's like, "We need you to do an interview." And this is during the pit party. And I get into this room. It's black. Like I feel like I'm being interrogated for something. I'm ready for like the U.S. Border Patrol or something. I am an American citizen, and I can do this. So they told me to do the interview and stuff like that, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And a few minutes later, we found out about Mike, and that really was a bummer. But
by the way, shout out to everybody who showed up for that event. That looked so awesome. I wish I could have been there. And to see the industry coming together for someone who meant so much to us, and watching his brother that whole year on tour, and watching now he's a father, and dealing with that. So shout out to everybody who made that happen. And his memory will live on. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. But and then I always made a bunch of cameos also, like somehow
Santa Clara.
Yeah, Santa Clara.
I love Santa Clara.
I was there drumming, and there was another time I'm just BJ's getting an interview, and I'm not unbolting Gas Monkey. I come and I snap and turn at the camera while walking, and let's see. I don't think, Ryan, you interviewed me, didn't you? I think Ken did. Ken did a lot of interviews with me in Australia.
Yeah, I never went to Australia. That's one of the things that I didn't get to do.
But we did the whole FS1 tour in 2016. How did you like the weather at Orlando that year?
Well, the worst part was they did an audio test like 2 hours before we opened the stadium. So the pit party's going on, and there's just god awful loud like audio noise for just like the techs, everybody working on the track. Not only was it just cold and miserable, but that was just one of the most obnoxious days ever. Yeah.
That was a crazy show.
I have to ask, Ryan. We're talking about funny moments. What's one of your funniest bloopers that you may have had at a Monster Jam?
Well, I did. I will say we were talking about Gas Monkey Garage. One of the first Facebook Lives Monster Jam did. We were in San Antonio, and then the mic cut out on Michael, who was introducing Ass Monkey Garage. It cut out right as he said the G. So that was a good moment. I'm glad I wasn't interviewing BJ, because it just wouldn't have happened. But definitely in 2019, yeah, when it rained every time we went to Anaheim, and I was dancing with the mascots, and I went to go jump up with them, and I slipped, and I had my hand on a pole, and I'm like, I'm going down, and I went down as slow as I could, and then as soon as I hit the ground, I threw out the jazz hand. And I got some good responses. Or the time the inflatable went down in Anaheim, and I was like, "Who let Tom Brady in?" And everybody liked that. Everybody liked that.
There's a comment here from Scott Bryant. It says, "Ryan getting interviewed by Mike Voders Jr. at Atlanta."
Oh yeah, no, that was fun. And that was always fun being on tour with Mike. He's another great driver. Like we've kind of touched on that earlier. Mike Voders II is someone I've always enjoyed watching, along with Damon Bradshaw, Tom Mentz. Neil Elliott is in my top 5 faux show. He's just been unbelievable to watch. Some of the air I've seen Lindsey Wink get has been crazy. But if you go back, Jeff Day and Rob Fuchs, Andy Brass was my guy. You brought up David Morris. That was awesome. I mean, there's just been so many people who over the years have come and gone and that have really just brought us to this point, which unfortunately is all of us sitting in our rooms wishing we could actually be at a show.
Yep.
That's why I've surrounded myself by smaller versions of the trucks. I'm pretending they're big.
So these are my.
Surround myself with a cool T-shirt.
see, that's why I surround myself with more of stuff like this.
Nice.
I could run that over.
You're funny.
Yes, Josh has some cool trucks.
Right there.
But you have to go through some snow to get to them, though.
Hey, these things got some cleats on them now. They can get through the snow.
It's the battery life that I'm worried about.
Just rip on the Canadian. It's every episode.
Chief, do you have the full blown Raminator yet?
The full blown one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got like 4 of them.
You do?
Yeah, you can try it out at the Jamboree.
Do I get to drive one tomorrow?
No.
you just made Josh is just
crushed my day. You crushed everything. Literally, you crushed this.
Oh, we'll talk. Crush this.
Cut it.
By the way, Ryan, you mentioned the Crush This video. That's where the name of this podcast came from.
I had a yeah. There's some nostalgia to it for sure.
Which here's a fact that Crush This video. Where was it mostly filmed at?
Oh, Great Lakes Dragway, Union Grove, Wisconsin. My man in the big Dust Bowl.
Yes. I always heard stories the last couple guests. Who was the guy who ran that?
Broadway Bob.
Broadway, yes.
Yep. Brett
Who would ride
up there all the time too.
Who would ride on the nose of Doug Rose's Green Mamba Jet Dragster and wave to everybody.
Yeah.
I heard you about the Monster Wars thing, and Brad, you missed a very important key to that story, right? When the guy was falling down, he said, "Whose guy is that?" And he's like, "That's my guy." The way the story was going more and more in depth, he said, "Everyone's going down nice." He said, "You see some parachute guy going out of control, like all over the place, and can't figure it out." He's like, "Who's that guy?" And he's looking at all the characters, and he's like, "That's my guy." And
it's just like, I don't know him.
Yeah, another David Morris one. He comes over and there was a USA event, and Tim, Mark, Dan Patrick were all working on these trucks. Here comes David Morris. He unhooks his toolbox. He says, "Guys, let me get my fine china out." And he goes over and he gets wrenches that are made out of China, from China. He's like, "Let me get my fine china out." And he starts working on it. And then there was one time he was backing up a rig, and Gary Cook was trying to get him around this brand new car. And he's like, "You're getting close to that car. And he hits the car, and he's like, "Never mind, you're good. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going." Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So,
but anyway, yeah.
One question, Ryan. Any pranks that you've noticed or been a part of while on tour?
Clean.
Not really. I don't think so. I mean, there was the year that, that first FS1 series that Damon and Neil were kind of going back and forth, and Neil was always trying to push Damon's buttons. So it was one event I missed, I guess, where they were having some back and forth one weekend, and they just, and Neil like threw his trophy or his plaque at Damon Bradshaw's truck, and it bounced off. And so I wouldn't say it was necessarily a prank, but that would be kind of one of my favorite, like kind of like back and forth moments, is just seeing those guys kind of take it to the next level. But I guess having, if you know who Lloyd is, and if you're familiar with the Monster Jam world, Lloyd always gets pranked by his roommate. He got airbagged once, woken up in the morning. Always, and John Page always gets Lloyd, no matter what.
Johnson.
Yeah, he's always gets him. So it's just, there's never a whole lot of video, which is probably best for everyone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The story about Lloyd.
Yeah,
That guy was a pretty cool cat when we did the Nashville show, and then we went to this eating establishment called AJ's Bar and Grill. which is Alan Jackson's place. And the second level, so there's 3 stories. You have your regular bar where people can play and stuff like that. Then you got the middle one, which is the karaoke. And then you got a third one, and then you got a roof. So Lloyd, on the other hand, goes ahead and
put some pants on, bro. Sorry, I got naked kids running around here. We're just letting it all hang out for monster trucks right now. I don't mean to interrupt.
All good, brother. All good.
So he goes ahead and he starts putting money in the karaoke. Then we close it out. It's Eric, but he closed up the karaoke place. We were rocking it. It was a 2017 Nashville show, and we closed out AJ's Bar and Grill, and that was pretty cool. All because of him. He was just like.
There's a lot of good stories. They're just not mine to tell.
So with Crush This, we always have specific questions that we like to ask our guests.
This is the reason why I'm here.
Huh?
Here, can I throw a curveball at you first?
Okay.
Can we play a game?
Sure.
We'll just go around in a circle, and whoever you gotta keep naming a truck.
Okay.
The last person to name the truck.
Last time we did this, I lost.
Yeah, we'll start easy, right? We'll start easy, right? So, Brad, you kick it off.
So I have to say the name of a truck.
Name a truck, and we'll just keep going.
Taurus.
Cheat.
He's frozen.
All right,
so
Josh.
we automatically lost.
Cheat is out. All right, round 1 over. All right, Josh, you.
Gravedigger.
Wildfoot.
Excalibur.
Bigfoot.
No problem.
Taurus.
Wild Man.
Boogie Van.
Badfoot, Bigfoot 3.
VP Racing Fuels Mad Scientist.
Stinger Unleashed.
Austin 316.
Max D.
Pretty Wicked.
Stinger.
Mr. Twister.
Thunder Chicken.
Fuck.
Master of Disaster.
Wild Thing.
Leadfoot.
Bad Company. I had to look behind me.
Son of a Digger.
Evil Force.
Big Toe.
There
Just
you go.
Showing Off.
Aces High.
Hot Stuff.
Awesome Kong.
Rockstar.
High Voltage.
King Kong.
Awesome Kong.
Oh, dude, that's it. Bad Medicine.
He owes me a Canadian soda for that.
That's always one of my favorite games, and that's always fun too when we're doing shows. Is how many old school trucks can you say in your intros? That was always a fun game I like to play.
Our chat's getting filled right now with old school names, by the way.
Good.
I had to say the 2 trucks I designed, so I had to throw them in there.
There we go. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Hey, I had to put Pretty Wicked in there. The Bigfoot Bad Boy 3.
Magnum Force.
Ooh, Magnum Force. That's a good one.
Wild Child. God of
Don't get
Thunder.
Levi anything right now, okay? Don't give him nothing.
Chopper Monster.
There you go. Somebody's doing a really cool RC, by the way, of Chopper Monster.
Sorry.
Oh.
Right, there's the real loser right there.
By the way, isn't Scott Douglas is that happening now? I want to check that out too.
Yeah. So let's get back with the last 2. Let's do the last 2 questions.
Great. Yeah.
So we can all watch that because I know everybody's excited about that. So okay, Cheech, you got the note ready about this?
Well, yeah, I guess.
All right. These are the 2 most hard-hitting questions that we have.
Okay.
Like these are the most important things. Do you think that you've had important questions thrown your way in life? These 2 are like the top questions. Okay.
Okay.
What is your favorite kind of pie?
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake. That's a new one on the list, I believe. Cheech.
It's tied. It's officially moved to 5th.
All right, and the other one has to deal with the Norman brothers, Christian and Phil.
Oh, you asking which one I would make out with and which one I would pick in the mouth?
Yes. Yes.
This is you can't do this to me. I mean, let's just go hot dog party in my room, all right? I'll hug them both. I gotta hug them both. They're my guys.
Okay.
And I'm proud of both of them too. I think they've both had and like you, Cheech, man, some amazing careers. Just watching people progress through time, and those guys are a great story. And they've separated and they've worked hard together. And I got to see in Joliet last summer. Phil hopping behind Wicked. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, so jealous. But Christian is just taking the Bigfoot team to another level, and it's inspiring to watch those guys.
All right, here's the question.
Okay.
Are you for or against eggnog?
Oh, for eggnog. I love it.
Oh, man.
In high school, I mixed it with...
Good night, guys. Thank you.
No, there's a rivalry between me and Cheech and those Norman brothers. We absolutely.
This guy needs to drink a gallon of eggnog.
Yes, I do.
Sucks
because Edmonton Oilers lost against Chicago Blackhawks in the thing.
In the thing.
Hey guys,
we got some great names here too.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, 3 of us are in Illinois. One of us is not like the others.
I'm sorry, I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan. Okay.
Whichever one, John. That's what.
McDavid's awesome.
The camera's reversed. All right.
All right, guys.
It's not very good at live streaming unless it's on
cheesecake's not a pie. I'll say French silk pie. That's my.
There was someone complaining about that. Yeah. Oh, Levi.
What's French silk pie?
This is like chocolate.
He's the only person that ever worked for Monster Jam that he found on the street.
He's just a pit party
Levi.
Tech. That's all he is.
Levi's my man. Levi's my man.
He's along the fence going, "Hey guys, what you guys doing? Want to help?" Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, Ryan, thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there anything like you'd like to say to your fans out there, the people that have supported you?
Thank you so much for just allowing me to come into your living rooms, to be a part of your lives, for the friendships, the camaraderies, the family that I miss so much. But I'm on a new kind of path right now. I'm really excited about that, and I hope that during all of this, everyone that I haven't talked to or seen in a while as well, and I hope that if anyone isn't, they would reach out because I'd be there to help. This is just the most unique time of our lives, and it's one of the most difficult times of our lives. And I know that once it's all said and done, we'll all look back at it and forget about it, because we'll hear the roar of a 12,000-pound monster truck and that smell of fuel just blowing out of the exhaust, and we'll all forget about this and just revel in that fact that we're back and having a good time with what we love so much. So just hope everybody's safe and well. And oh man, I hope 2020 doesn't 2020 us again before it's over. And
is there any social media that everybody can find you on?
I am Ryan LaCosse on Twitter and Instagram. I don't really use Insta too much. I'm trying to just be with my family and be off my phone as much as I can. So, but I'm around. You can reach out, send me messages if there's anything you want to say. I'm always down to talk monsters, or whatever's on someone's mind.
Any last words, guys?
We'll be at your track soon.
Yes, bring your bee suit.
Yep. Oh no.
I will
okay.
Darcy Racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just at that hobby shop in Peoria.
I'll come visit you too. You just let me know when and where. All right.
You'd have to come to Canada for this one.
Burger King race one of these days.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to get him to come, but he doesn't answer back.
Yeah.
What are we talking about right here?
Okay, September 20th.
Here, we need to get him the schedule for the next race.
Yeah, September 20th. Or you can go to the Indianapolis 4-wheel drive Jamboree.
As long as it's not on carpet, because I'm no good on the carpet race.
Nope, it's dirt.
Good. Looking forward to it, and thank you guys so much for having me, and I hope it's glad to see everybody be a part of this. And again, I just hope everyone at home as well and doing okay.
Since we're going to be tagging RC stuff, go to Dan Agosh's RC too on Facebook and Instagram.
I don't have. The only RC I have is a rock crawler.
Well, you have a design website. You have a design website. Yes. Go check that out.
There's my Jester, my Max D, and my Brutus trucks.
I might as well plug I might as well plug my design thing. BradleyShawDesigns.com. Go check it out. I just made it, guys. Please. Like the Facebook page. It'll mean a lot to me. I'm trying to kind of go more legit with my design work. But let's all go watch.
Don't forget the Renegade Monster Truck Tour.
Yes, the Renegade Monster Truck Tour, Zane Ratu's thing. The event this week at the Penn Can Speedway got moved to Sunday. So if you want to go check that out in Pennsylvania, go do that. All right, guys. Well, we're going to all probably go watch Scott Douglas on Twitch.
It's already over.
It's already over?
Is that why you ditched us, Keith? You just ditched us to watch that?
I think everybody's excited for that because it's something new that he's doing.
It was
So.
my whole master plan. I knew what was going on, so I threw Josh under the bus, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on here, guys? Scott Douglas and Dennis Anderson. What's up?"
Was that why you had your phone to your ear?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, so you
geez.
were listening to the whole thing.
He's got his priorities in place.
Yeah, I just figured this out. Mathematician.
All right, guys. So on Tuesday, we have Brian Loans from the NHRA coming on. Cheech will announce the guest for Thursday. So if he hasn't done that already.
I hasn't, but I'll give you a hint. He is a RC guy, and he actually raced in the late 90s in the Thunder Nationals. So
I think I know who you're talking about.
if the initials are BM,
Yep, I know exactly.
yep, that is probably be our next guest. It's a pretty cool story. It's somewhere off the part because I guess I'll let him out. What's his name, Josh?
Bart Mamone.
Bart. Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to be the next guest. Is he drove a truck called Gatekeeper, which Tim Tesmer's team. Yeah. He's going to talk about the story about that. Talk about the RC racing. He still RCs. His daughter's one a really good RC racer in the
New York
Northeast.
City, yes.
And they'll talk about that. He helps out with rock bands and stuff like that, doing stages and stuff. So he's going to be our next guest on for next Thursday. So that's a huge talk about because he was in that little time area where the Thunder Nationals peaking before kind of like phased out a little bit. So and maybe hear some Tim Tesmer stories too.
There you go.
So.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this has been another episode of Crush This Live. Thank you so much to everybody.
Something smells like it's on fire.
High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, which you can watch the Renegade Monster Truck Tour on. 6B Apparel, Marty Garza and his book Monster Truck Technology, JB Scale Graphics, and myself, Bradley Shaw Designs. All right, guys. As we always say on Crush This, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up. Peace out.
All for BK.
I was waiting for it. All for BKT time.